Yo, what is up, guys? It is Antoine Jameson coming at you with another uniform history video. This one is of the history of the New Orleans Hornets plus the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Hornets was a team from 2002 until 2013, and they rebranded into the New Orleans Pelicans, and that is just one franchise, which is why I'm going to focus on them first. So, the history of the New Orleans Hornets is kind of interesting, and it ties in with the Charlotte Hornets, which is why I wanted to talk about it. All the way back in 2002, the Charlotte Hornets were a thriving franchise. They actually made the playoffs during the 2002 seasons, so they weren't shunned by the city as being a bad team or anything, but the owner, George Shinn, believed that the current arena, the Charlotte Coliseum, was too small for the NBA to host games in. He officially filed for relocation to Memphis, but that was won by Vancouver at the time. He stated that he wanted a new arena built for him free of charge because of how much revenue the city was brought because of the Hornets. An arena was being built, so he pulled out of his relocation, but the city wanted Shinn to sell the team because they didn't really like the owner. During this time, he was actually going through a sexual assault case that was actually very public knowledge. It was televised and everything. The NBA officials felt it would have been too risky to force Shinn to sell in case it would anger owners. I mean, just call me Donald Sterling here.
For life.
The New Orleans governor, Mike Foster, promised that if the Hornets would move to New Orleans, they would offer $10 million to upgrade the state-owned New Orleans arena and several million more each year from the New Orleans area hotel tax. So he ended up moving Charlotte to New Orleans. But that was just a history, so let's get into the actual meat of this video, the jerseys. So the first jerseys had the same exact template that the Charlotte Hornets had, just a simple font across the chest, but they removed the pinstripes. This leads me to believe that Alexander Julian is the creator of the New Orleans jerseys too, even though he wasn't really involved in the action, while George Shinn and others just redesigned the jerseys with New Orleans in mind, which went to the colors of Creole blue, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, dark purple, and Mardi Gras gold. The first two jerseys to be shown were the home white and the blue aways. I'm just going to say blue, but it's that Creole blue, and both featured New Orleans on the front. The gold alternate, which is just a similar exact same silhouette, and it was released in 2004. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. Because of the damage to the city, the Hornets and the NBA came to an agreement for the Hornets to play in Oklahoma City at the Ford Center. They played in OKC for a couple years, also with some games located in Louisiana as the stadium was being built, but during this time, the Hornets changed their look very slightly. While they were in OKC, the Hornets added a very small OKC patch to the front right of the jersey, and also the white home jersey had two different variations. One that featured Hornets on the front, which was the first time in Charlotte Hornets plus New Orleans Hornets history that a jersey had Hornets on the front, and another that had Oklahoma City on the front. So it was New Orleans on the blue and on the yellow, but on the white there was no New Orleans anymore. It was either Oklahoma City or Hornets. This was probably to signify that while they were the OKC New Orleans Hornets, their home was still a little bit shaky just because of Hurricane Katrina, and most of their games were played in Oklahoma City. During this time, probably the weirdest but most interesting jersey I actually own was introduced. This was a Valentines Day special jersey that featured a very, very bright red, almost pink jersey to signify Valentine's Day. This was actually only worn once in-game. While I'm not sure of the availability of the other jerseys, I've never actually looked into it, the only way to get this jersey was to be in OKC at the time, around Valentine's Day, and buy it in the team shop. There were no online sales of this jersey at all. A funny thing that I know about this jersey personally is that it was featured during a game for a fan to sign up for a date with a honeybee. And that fan actually won a Chris Paul version of this jersey and a date with one of the cheerleaders. It's very odd, but pretty awesome. Also, Birdman, Lil Wayne, and some of their crew had the jerseys on in Poppin' Bottles. The video in 2007, so that's pretty cool. When they returned to New Orleans full-time, the home jerseys were brought back to the original style of having New Orleans on the front, and all three jerseys now featured the Florida Bee logo on the right shoulder. Also, in 2008, the Hornets wore a throwback to the 60s jersey of the New Orleans Buccaneers. I really like the pinstripes down the side, to be honest. But in 2009, the team decided that it needed to move on from the Hurricane Katrina era jerseys and open up into a more natural jersey that really paid tribute to the past, present, and future of the city. George Shinn actually said that. A lot of people at this time thought that New Orleans was actually going to relocate to Oklahoma City full time. George Shinn wanted to prove that that wouldn't happen, and because of a commitment, they decided to change the jerseys and redesign them just to prove to the city that they weren't moving. The jersey colors during this time stayed the same. They had these jerseys from 2009 to 2013. They stayed the same colors, which was that Creole blue, Mardi Gras gold, but they made the purple look a little bit darker, which made it more look like dark blue until I just researched it and found out it was still considered purple. I honestly thought it was dark blue the entire time, but they still call it purple. The jersey now donned pinstripes, which were a callback to the Charlotte Hornets in years past. In 2010, the gold version of this jersey was actually introduced. It's the same exact thing except it's gold. Also in 2010, a Mardi Gras style jersey was introduced. This jersey had a purple front and a green back, and gold siding with like a Mardi Gras-ish design into it. This was a weird jersey to see on TV, plus it had to have been weird to actually play in it because like the front of the jersey was a different color than the back of the jersey, and like, I don't know, it must have been really cool to see on TV. I actually never personally saw it, but it was much like the Toronto Raptors of the past. Those black and purple jerseys. They used all 4 of those jerseys every year until they rebranded in 2013. In 2010, actually, the NBA bought the Hornets from George Shinn as he was going through like a little bit of a rough patch with like money issues, I guess. And after a bunch of CP3 drama, the team was bought by Tom Benson in 2012. And this actually brought in the rebrand to the New Orleans Pelicans. In 2013, the New Orleans Hornets rebranded themselves into the New Orleans Pelicans. This came because Benson believed that the team needed a name that would better suit the region, and the pelican was the state bird, so it made sense. There were a lot of other options available. I think I remember brass. I really wanted this one called crew, but I remember they picked pelicans and they showed off the logo and everything. The colors were introduced with red, navy, and gold. And the home jersey was white with New Orleans on the front, along with a navy away with New Orleans on the front. And on the sidings of the jerseys, the gold were made to emulate French Quarter street lamps, which I thought was interesting, and I actually didn't learn about until I started researching this. In 2014, a red alternate was introduced, which featured the words Pelicans on the front. This was the second time in history and the first time an official jersey had a team nickname on the jersey instead of just having New Orleans or Charlotte, other than the time when they were in OKC and it had Hornets on the front, which was just kind of like a one-off jersey, and it was also sided with the OKC whites, so it was like kind of weird. But this is the first time an official alternate jersey featured a name. Also, before the 2015 season, the Pelicans announced they would have a different Mardi Gras uniform. This one did not have a different color on each side, but it did have sleeves. This was the pride uniform for the Pelicans, much like the Charlotte Hornets Buzz City uniforms that I talked about before. Also, one more jersey in their history, they wore the Christmas Day uniforms against the Miami Heat in 2015. So that has been it for the New Orleans Pelicans jersey history. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm definitely planning on making a bunch for a bunch of different teams, so subscribe if you like this, and see you guys later. Bye.